Barnyard Language. We are Katie and Arlene, an Iowa sheep farmer and an Ontario dairy farmer with 6 kids, 2 husbands, and a whole lot of chaos between us. So kick off your boots, reheat your coffee, and join us for some Barnyard Language, honest talk about running farms and raising families.
In case your kids haven't already learned all the swears from being in the barn, it might be a good idea to put on some headphones or turn down the volume. While many of our guests are professionals, they aren't your professionals. If you need personalized advice, consult your people. Welcome to another episode of Barnyard Language, and this is going to be the closest episode to Mother's Day. So if you are a mother, happy Mother's Day. If you know a mother or you've got a mother, then make sure to go and wish her a happy Mother's Day. And happy Mother's Day, Katie.
Happy Mother's Day to you too, Arlene.
Thanks. So as farm people, I know I'm kind of hoping for rain on Mother's Day so we can actually do something. What are your thoughts on the Mother's Day weather as a farm parent?
Honestly, our 10th wedding anniversary and my birthday are also the same week as Mother's Day.
Woo!
So
all together.
Yeah. My goal is just that everybody be alive and still speaking to each other at the end of the week.
Well, yeah, that's a good goal to have.
Yeah, we're talking about going to a concert in September to celebrate Mother's Day. That's
okay.
Kind
good
of
enough.
You know, if you start talking about planning it near Mother's Day, it's like a Mother's Day thing. And honestly, Jim bought me a new garden cart, which was very exciting. So that is actually what I wanted for Mother's Day. This was not just like a vacuum cleaner for Mother's Day, which I would also be stoked about. When we first got married, my mother-in-law was very frustrated by my enjoyment of practical gifts. But, you know, especially when you're younger and broker or older and broker, it's really nice to get the things that are a little nicer and useful.
Yeah, that's true.
Than what you already have.
Yeah, something that you're going to use every day.
And that.
Yeah, that's right. But
yeah.
How often do we leave the house?
Exactly. And I'll tell you that the new garden cart has a dump bucket on it, so you can just fill it with mulch and then dump it instead of having to scoop it back out, and that was real nice.
Mm-hmm.
So I've already gotten my money's worth out of it. I'll post pictures. And for our poor patrons who are looking at my hair today, I washed it yesterday and then slapped the farm hat that Arlene's husband gave me on over it while it was still wet, and then happily went about my day and took my hat off at the end of the day. And this is what it looks like when you do that. So if you're wondering how bad my hair looks, you can join our Patreon, and then you too can see how ridiculous I look pretty much all the time.
Yeah, because one of the perks of being a patron is you get to see us do our updates and not just hear us. So if you want to see what's happening behind Katie's desk or what's happening on either of our heads on any given day when we do our update, that's what a patron can enjoy. And other perks too, of course. But in all seriousness, Patreon does help make this show happen. So if you are a listener and you enjoy the show even a little bit, then that would be a fantastic Mother's Day gift for both of us, or Katie's birthday present, or an anniversary gift if you're into that kind of thing. Whatever. Katie's got all the occasions.
Or if you feel like you could enjoy this show more if it were better, then pledging to Patreon is also a great way to help us do that. Because
that would be nice.
Making the show is not free. And if I had more coffee and you know, the editing software in that is not free, then I bet we could make an even better show than the one that you are presumably already enjoying, because otherwise you wouldn't still be listening.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So what's going on in Iowa, Katie, other than all the occasions? It's spring.
First, now that the lambing report is done, we're getting the bird report, because I'm a nerd and I'm half this podcast and I can. The hummingbirds are back. The Baltimore Orioles are back. The rose-breasted grosbeaks are back. There was somebody else that I saw was back. Anyway, I also saw a barred owl very up close the other day. That was super cool. And the turkey vultures are back. They're my favorite. So, whatever. The guys got some field work done. They got some hay and some oats planted, so that's awesome. We had
She's
cows
looking-
escape, I think.
She's looking
for
out the
last-
window.
Yeah.
For the listeners.
Well, I was looking to see if that goddamn cow had escaped again yet today, and no, she has not that I've seen her. Thankfully, our kids are now old enough to wander down to the living room and say, "Hey, Daddy, there's a cow in the yard," which is actually pretty helpful.
Right, when it's not supposed to be in that yard.
Yeah. So if anybody wants a heifer with a nice calf on her side, let us know, because she's for sale. I hope your fences are better than ours. We're preparing to ship one of our Ayrshires north for Arlene's daughter's graduation gift. So,
No.
Hugh, I hope you have room in the barn.
Not
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah. Jim said to tell Hugh that going Jersey was one step closer to going Ayrshire.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
y'all are just sliding into that pit. Other than that, not a whole heck of a lot. We're in that weird part of spring where it went from very cold to very, very warm in like 2 days, and it's raining. So, once again, like every spring, we've realized that the lawnmower blades have not gotten sharpened, and the oil has not gotten changed, and things are growing very quickly. So, other than that, not a whole heck of a lot. What's going on at your place, Arlene?
Well, on the lawn mowing front, having older kids means that I'm not cutting the lawn anymore, which is pretty fun. So we've already cut the grass, I think, 4 times already, which seems like a lot considering it's pretty early in the year. But yeah, like you said, it's been growing fast. We had a ton of rain, so we have actually not done any planting yet because it's just been too wet. We had torrential rain for about a week. Well, not torrential every day, but there was some really heavy rains, and then there was just like drizzle for days on end. So it's looking like this week is supposed to not rain, at least for a little while. My husband is waiting on the rented rock picker to be ready because he has to go pick that up. The good thing about
You
cleaning
have
out
4 kids. Why do you need to rent a rock picker?
I was about to say, so the good thing about taking out fence rows is that you get bigger fields. But when you take out fence rows, you have generations worth of stones that generations worth of people have picked and thrown into those fence rows. So it's not that we don't want our kids to pick stones, but some of these stones are genuinely too big for anyone to pick up. And there are also a lot of them. So in a lot of these fence rows that we have cleaned out, in the last 2, 3, 4 years, anyone who has stony ground knows that those rocks keep working their way to the surface somehow. So, the rock picking that needs to be done at this point is beyond what human beings are going to be able to handle. So he has to go and pick that up and bring it back here to the farm for round 1 of spring rock picking for some of the fields to get worked up. Or I guess, the fields are worked up, but the stones need to go before we can plant. So that should happen this week, and then planting is going to happen. And in the barn, one of our special cows, my husband calls her his emotional support cow, Apple Crisp. She'll be 12 this year. She had a baby the other day, so it was kind of a special one. So it was my 15-year-old has been waiting for ear tag number 1000 to come around. So this heifer calf got ear tag number 1000. She was born on the day of the coronation, and she's Apple Crisp's daughter. So we got a special little calf born on the weekend, and Apple Crisp was not doing the best leading up to and during delivery, but she seems to have bounced back. The vet was in to check on her again today, and she seems to be doing okay. So fingers crossed, Apple Crisp is doing well, and I think we're at the A year, so her calf is also going to start with Apple. So I think it's either Apple Jubilee or Apple Crown. We're still negotiating what this one's going to be called. So those are our contenders right now.
You could really reach both our more boozy audience and our more British audience by calling her Apple Crown Royal.
Yes, well, Apple Crown was the short form of Apple Crown Royal. Okay, I'm not sure how many.
I'm glad we went the same direction with
that. How many letters we can put in. That whole thing might be too many. But yeah, Apple Crown was the short version. So we'll see. Are you a royal person? Did you watch the Jubilee or the coronation at all?
No, I caught up with it in the news, and that was really enough for me.
Mm-hmm. Was it as big of a deal there, do you think? Like, because I know, like, in our town there were like not huge, but like there were coronation parties, like people had like gatherings and that kind of stuff. No, not so much a thing. I know you're not a Commonwealth country. I'm just wondering what the differences are.
Arlene, we fought an entire damn war to not have to care about your coronations.
There you go.
So, yeah. No, I mean, we had mass shootings and the Kentucky Derby to attend to. So,
Yeah, there you go. That sounds more American.
Probably watching the coronation would have been better.
All right. So we have a very special Mother's Day episode. And after you listen, you need to check social media and see some photos, because the little person that all of our guests are talking about in this episode was actually born a little while ago. So she is here, and I'm sure is being loved by so many, many people from the sounds of the conversation that we had with her parents and the people who brought her into the world. So we are really excited for you to listen to this episode.
I think this is the most guests we've ever had on one episode, too. There were, 4 and a half people involved in this one.
4 in a hospital room. So it was not the interview we were expecting, but it was it was an amazing conversation, and we're really excited for you guys to hear it. Today we are very excited to be talking to Hannah Jungling and a few guests who will be popping in and out of the interview. So currently she's in Georgia, but we're going to get more context on where she is and what's happening. So before we even get into our usual first question, I'm going to ask where you are and what you're up to at this very moment.
So we're hanging out in Georgia at the University Hospital waiting on a cute little baby to show up.
Very exciting. So we're going to get more info on that, but we'll start with our usual way so that people don't get confused. So we always start out with our first question, which is, what are you growing? So we know a baby, but that can also cover crops, livestock, careers, businesses, all kinds of other stuff. So Hannah, what else are you growing?
So we have a horse farm here in Aiken, South Carolina. And so we breed a few horses a year. We do a little bit of selling, a little bit of training, lots of showing. We also are currently growing a couple baby goats, and there's a bunch of turkeys in the incubator and a couple of eggs sitting under a hen. So we're just all sorts of things.
That's a lot of stuff. What kinds of horses and what kinds of showing? I'm not a horse person, but I'm sure there are people out there who are curious.
No, you're fine. So we do mostly Connemara crosses. So they're an Irish bred, smaller horse. And we cross those with warm bloods and sport horses at home to do 3-day eventing and dressage is our main competing style. So it's a lot of fun.
Cool. Yeah. And so are the turkeys and chickens for your own use? You selling them? Are you...
The turkey, we normally name sometime in the summer, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. Yeah. And then the chickens we have all laying hens right now. At some point, we'd like to get doing some meat hens. And then we got 2 baby goats. And the female will be a dairy goat. And the male is her little companion. He loses his nuts here next month. So.
And Hannah, you have one other child, right?
We do. We have a 6-year-old, almost 7, Tempe.
I figured out that we've known each other for 23 years.
That's insane.
Were you younger than Tempe when we met?
No, I probably would have been about the same age. I would probably have been 7 or 8. So about the same age. Isn't that crazy?
For like our super scandalous moment for the week, my mom dated Hannah's dad for a while. Totally. And that's how we know each other. So Hannah, other question. Are you any taller than you were at 7?
Yeah,
no,
nope,
I didn't think so.
It just all stopped, Katie, I'm telling you.
You can't tell from the video, but Hannah is, I don't know, like a foot shorter than I am.
I barely hit 5 foot, and all my brothers are over 6. I'm not sure where the bullshit happened, but it did.
Oh, I think they knew that much attitude in a bigger body would be dangerous. So
That's
they, valid.
Like
a golf handicap or a racing handicap, handicap her a little for everybody's safety.
I love it.
So Hannah, did you grow up on a farm, or do you have a background in ag? What's your farm story?
We grew up in town, but I grew up on the horse. Like I was out on the horse farm all the time. So I grew up at a farm out in Stone City, Iowa, that I was at daily, constantly. I mean, I've always been just completely horse obsessed. So starting the time I was about 6, I was out there constantly. But no, I grew up in town.
That leads in real well to how did you manage to make being a horse girl like a real job? You know, for anyone else who's wondering how to make this transition.
That's don't make money in horses. So you make money other ways. So I was a massage therapist for 15 years, and then I taught riding lessons on the side for 15 years and trained horses. And you had a great time doing it. And when we moved to South Carolina, we just decided we wanted to take a step back and have more family time. And so we built out our farm ourselves. And like I said, we breed a little bit on the side. We sell a little bit, do a tiny bit of training, but I actually do a lot more braiding now. So I braid horses at night for the hunter jumper shows, which is extraordinarily lucrative, like embarrassingly lucrative. You know, you're with the horses at night, and they're quiet and they're happy and they know the job, and it's really nice. And then I have my whole week to do my normal life at home with my family. And the barn is, you know, our farm is just lovely and quiet and serene. It's perfect. So, I mean, do I make a living necessarily off the horses? No, because that's impossible. They're way too expensive. But we incorporate life.
So you're like really living the horse girl dream by getting paid to play with your horse's hair.
Literally, Katie, it's ridiculous. It is.
That's amazing.
I finished the weekend, and it's just ridiculous. I mean, it's wild. So it's super fun. We absolutely love it.
That's bonkers. I love it. I'm so here for this.
Right. And Hannah practices braiding all the time.
Does she have the best hairstyles for Crazy Hair Day?
No, because I'm terrible at doing human hair. Like, terrible. So mine's short.
Yeah.
That pass together. So I'm terrible at doing hair. So I can braid hers a little bit and stuff, but not a whole lot.
There's just not quite enough of it. Like, there needs to
no.
she needs to grow it for years.
You know, the funny things to complain about, you know, hers is so soft and silky, and horses are much more coarse, and they don't complain.
Yeah, that's true. And your husband's in the room with you as well. Does he work on farm or in ag, or what's your story?
So I have a normal job, project manager for a firm.
Normal.
A normal job.
I work to the bone, fixing all the things that the horse girls break during the day. So, yeah, that's what we do.
That sounds about right.
Right.
So, yeah. So, Hannah, we talk a lot on this podcast about, I mean, Katie and I end up going back to this a lot about becoming parents for the first time, and that transition from
Absolutely.
being a human unto yourself, and then, you know, the transition to being a parent. What was that like for you with your, you know, with your daughter?
A lot of it was good, and a lot of it was challenging. I think the evolution of becoming a parent is challenging in every fact of the matter. We had complications with our, not complications, but just things we had to adapt to. Bryce was working full time and going to school full time, and I'm self-employed. So Tempe was with me 24/7. And, you know, we just had to work through figuring those things out. And I was so fortunate that I was able to, I was a very good milk cow. And so I produced a lot of milk, and it was very simple to just have her attached to me all the time. She literally lived attached to my body for the first 2 years, and was with us at the barn all the time. I taught with her constantly. She traveled. She was 10 days old at her first horse show, 3 states away. You know, she had to kind of jump and just roll with the punches like the rest of us. But it definitely was an adaptation to figure out, and then moving down here and figuring out school and everything. Our schools aren't as exceptional, and so just figuring out the processes of everything. And I think as moms, parents in general, we take on the role of, you want to produce a kind and gentle human to give back to the world, because we have to give them back to the world. And so Bryce and I have really taken a lot of responsibility over that we want to make sure we're producing a good little human that will hopefully go on and do good little human things someday in the world. But it's a challenge. I think people that don't think it's a challenge are definitely toying with themselves.
And Hannah, before we get any further, how many horses does Tempe have now?
Oh, well, let's see. So she's got her hot sauce pony, who is the cutest pony in the entire world that's ever existed. Arlie and Katie will have to send you pictures on Facebook. It is like literally the cutest pony. And then she recently hijacked my husband's horse. And then she's got her eyes set on one of my yearlings that she seems to think is going to be hers. So, but she's, going back to that, raising children, I think it's so important to raise them around animals. And, I always tell Bryce, my favorite thing in the whole world is when she doesn't hear me behind her or see me, and you hear her talking to the animals, and she's so sweet and gentle. And, she's at the fence and the babies have their head over the fence and she's smooching them and telling them how beautiful they are. And, talking in baby voices to them and, snuggling the cats and all of that. Like, it's really special to see that relationship growing.
Part of why we're talking to so many of you today and in the hospital, do you want to just tell us why there are so many people in this room with you, Hannah?
So we've got a bit of a party going on right now. We only ever wanted one child. And we felt very fortunate that we had a very healthy pregnancy and a very healthy birth, and we have a wonderful little girl. And we always talked about being surrogates and that it would be a really cool experience. And it just kind of never panned out for us. And we've talked about it for about 6 years. And so then life was a bit crazy and busy, and we thought maybe it just wasn't in the cards. And I don't know, it was over a year ago now, about a year and a half ago. I started thinking about it again, but I didn't really want to say anything to Bryce until I'd sat with it for a bit. So I kind of sat with it for like 3 or 4 months. And then poor Bryce, I just dumped it on him one day and was like, so I really want to be a surrogate. And if you're in for this, then let's do it. And if you don't, then we won't, but I really want to do this. And, being the ever supportive guy that he is, he was like, well, hell yeah, let's do it. So, we found an agency, which was a bit of a challenge. I live a very active life, obviously, and a lot of the agencies want you to be very sedentary. I mean, it's crazy. They don't want you doing anything. And so I finally found an agency that was okay with me riding through the pregnancy and living our normal active life, running a busy farm. And they immediately set us up with a couple from Australia. And they didn't realize our parameters, and our parameters were that we weren't going to carry for anyone that was straight. So they set us up with this lovely couple from Australia, and I wish I could have been a fly on the wall when they had to call them back and say, actually, the surrogate won't carry for you because you're not gay. But the very next couple they paired us with was Chris and Jose, who are here with us. And we absolutely fell in love with them the moment we talked to them on the phone, and immediately became friends on Facebook and got each other's numbers. And it's a very long process. We met in January last year. And the transfer actually wasn't until September. And so through that time, I had to make lots of trips up to Indianapolis, and we got to spend a lot of time together and get to know each other really well. And it was like icing on the cake when we first met them, and Bryce immediately started stalking them. And they had an Airedale on their website. They're dog groomers. And as Katie knows, we love Airedales, and we lost our beloved Airedale 2 years ago. And so Bryce called me the moment he saw it on their website, and he was like, it's them. It's got to be them. Like, it's meant to be. We need to stick with them. So it's been really fun. We've had a blast. They've become some of our very best friends. We talk every day. And now we're at the point where little Emma has decided to come a week or two early, but she's good and cooked and she's ready. So we're just hanging out in the hospital.
Yeah, for our listeners, we did not schedule this interview anticipating quite this level of excitement. But, Hannah's, she's a trooper, and she makes me look really low-key and calm. So, she said, well, I'm at the hospital, but we can still do the interview. And I was like, are you sure? Yeah, fine. That's really cool, though, that you got to have this love at first sight connection with the parents of your child in such a different way than we normally think of. I mean,
it's been super awesome, and it's been really exciting. It's been really exciting, and we were thrilled. They only had Chris is biological to this child, and he only had one one little girl embryo. And so it was very exciting, the little Emma took, because they really wanted a little girl. So it's been super fun.
That is really neat. How have you explained it to your daughter, and how does she understand the process of what's been going on?
So that's actually hysterical. We, depending on how much people do with breeding, they're familiar or not with the term, but we do a lot of breeding with horses, right? And we had 3 ICSI babies last year. Well, ICSI is the exact same process. So although my daughter has zero idea about natural birds and the bees, artificial insemination and ICSI and embryos are like right up her alley. So she has been fortunate enough to be at the vet clinic when we've done a lot of the processes. And so she's gotten to see the eggs, the sperm, all of it under the microscope, and then see the embryos before we insert them into the mares, and then, follow the ultrasounds in the process. And eventually she's there when we birth out the foals. So for her, it was a no-brainer. I mean, I just told her, we talked about with her to make sure she was comfortable with it. And we just told her that it's the exact same process, that we're caring for some very dear friends that aren't able to carry for themselves. And, our family's going to help make another family. And, as soon as we said ICSI, she was like, oh, so we're making Petri dish babies. And I was like, yep, that's what we're doing. So it was easy peasy explaining it to her.
Yeah, that's a good point, because we live on a dairy farm, and so one of my kids' first jobs when they're out in the barn with my husband is like carrying the lube for him to do artificial insemination on cows. So yeah, breeding and talking about semen and all those kinds of things are pretty typical for our kids. So it probably is easier for them to understand than kids who aren't in agriculture or used to dealing with livestock.
Absolutely. Well, now that being said, there has been a time or two where she's asked, like, so is this how I was made? And Bryce and I very politely are like, we're just gonna
it's a little different. But
we're gonna avoid that conversation for a bit.
What's the going forward? What are you anticipating your relationship being like with this family? Because I mean, obviously, rather than like an open adoption or something, like you came at this whole situation very differently than a lot of families who end up mixing 2 families together like this.
I don't think Chris and Jose or Bryce and I anticipated having such a close relationship. I think this was a hope. I had told Chris when we initially talked that I thought it'd be really cool if maybe like we get a picture once a year of her as she grows, because she's not biologically related to me at all. She's a donor egg and Chris's sperm. But we've become so close, and they're literally a part of our family. After Emma's born, we'll actually all go back to the farm for a week, a few days to a week to settle and get milk supply up and in. So we'll be shipping milk off to them and help them get their feet under them with a newborn baby, and just spend time together and enjoy time together. But no, I know it's definitely not the norm. And I'm still not quite sure how we got so fortunate to have the relationship that we do, but I'm incredibly thankful for it, because we definitely want to watch Emma grow up. And Tempe calls her little cousin, and she's been sleeping with a little stuffy for the past month, because she wants the stuffy to smell like her, so that Emma can take it home and remember her smell. So it's been really sweet. It's been really, really sweet.
That is so cute.
I love talking to families that come together more intentionally, or with more luck and less normal, I guess. I don't know what to, there's a lot of folks who do things kind of the boy meets girl, boy and girl get drunk, boy and girl have a baby kind of way. But it's so cool to think about all the ways that families are made and how many people that can involve, and
absolutely,
and what a gift to be able to give someone.
Absolutely. And they've waited far. I mean, how old were these embryos? 4 years?
Well, we started this process. We started talking about it.
Talk loud.
Hi, this is Jose.
I was say I can only see the ceiling, but
okay.
So technically, we started this whole process like around 4 years ago, and it wasn't until the end of I would say probably 2018, beginning 2019, that we decided to go forward because we weren't really sure if this is what we really wanted to do. We were not sure if we were ready for kids. But then, like, most of our close friends started having kids throughout COVID, and then we looked at each other and they were like, "Yep,
It's time.
this is the path." I mean, all of our friends are having babies, so I think it's just I don't know what it is, the universe, whatever you want to call it, but
Stars
I
align.
think it doesn't. And then, so yeah, we started the whole process at Midwest Fertility. We called an agency close to where we live by, and which, by the way, we're still on their waiting list, waiting for a surrogate. They don't even know that we're actually having a baby yet. And but we created embryos, and we, like Hannah mentioned, that they were frozen for a while because we were still looking for a surrogate. And then Chris called Andrea, a wonderful person from Midwest that was helping us throughout the process, and desperately called her and asked if she knew anything of any agencies that we can call. So she mentioned one from Texas that's based in Texas, and what's it called, guys?
Newborn.
Newborn,
Advantage.
yeah,
Yeah, Newborn
Newborn
Advantage.
Advantage. And then we called to Mindy, who is the
Coordinator.
Yeah.
the coordinator, yeah, you call it. And then we talked to her, and that was like in around towards the end of 2021, November, around that time. We talked to them, and we're just like, pretty much we're just like looking for someone that can help us and guide us to the right way. And then January of 2022, that's when she was like, I think I found the right person. And that's when we met Hannah. We had a phone interview with them. No, a video call.
Yeah, it was
We met on a video call, and then it was kind of like meant to be. And then, yeah, everything just went great since then.
That's really neat.
I think. Sorry, you're never ready for babies. Like, it seems a little rude to tell you that now, like a little, closing the door after the horses are out, but you'll never be ready. But it's the best thing I've ever done. And
Yeah, we have.
hopefully it'll.
I mean, I can. That is true because we're not really ready, but I think we have.
we're really not ready for her to come yet.
But we have a lot of help back at home, and a lot of help. I mean, Bryce and Hannah, and even Hannah's family have been just wonderful, and we know we'll be okay. We'll make it through.
I think it's really cool too that you can start your time with this baby without one of you being dealing with the physical after effects of having just produced another human too. Because that was, I think, the hardest part is trying to heal and deal with a new baby who doesn't sleep. I mean, your baby will totally sleep and cause absolutely no problems ever. But
Katie, I made it feral. It is feral.
Yeah, fair. I feel okay about saying this because my kids are totally feral, and I've known you for a long time, Hannah. Feral is an accurate description.
I have told them from the beginning. I was like, I don't know what it is. It's me. It's me. It's something I do. This thing is wild all the time. I'm sorry, guys.
My daughter asked last night if she ever kicked me while I was pregnant with her. And this is
never, honey.
I have 5 hernias down the middle of my abdomen from her kicking me.
Oh
like,
my God.
Literally destroyed my body. And she's like, I never kicked. Okay, kid. Okay. So I'm just going to add a question in here. Hannah, since you are braiding horses and you said that Chris and Jose are dog groomers, have you thought about like combining forces and then perhaps like a reality show? Or
I mean, we're trying to convince them to move down to South Carolina, but I don't think it's going to happen.
I'm just picturing the show that you could create from this. And I mean, I would totally watch that. So
it would be epic. It would be epic. They run, so not only do they run a dog grooming business, they do doggy daycare too, and dog boarding. And one of the first times I went to their house, the whole basement is set up as their dog grooming and boarding area. And one of the first times I went to their house, they opened up the basement door, and there had to have been 30 dogs, all just like coming and peering around the corner, and they're like, "Oh, hello." You know? And
That
that's
is
the reason
goals.
it is hysterical, but people love boarding with them because the dogs are treated like family, and they're not left in kennels, and they're out and about and hanging out with everybody, and it's really cool. It's a really cool situation.
Do you think that dog grooming leaves them better prepared for dealing with little girl hair than horse grooming does?
Definitely.
What do you think?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All
I've
right.
been practicing with so whenever we groom dogs, mainly girl dogs, I like females, and they like poodles. They like all their long hair and stuff like that.
Are you putting bows in?
Yeah, I put bows in. So I specifically order like cute bows, so I can like. And then I think I got the hang of it, so I'm all set for that.
Yeah.
Jose's
Perfect. Watch this baby be the baldest child ever. Like you know those babies that don't have hair till they're like 2.
We did an ultrasound, a 3D ultrasound. We had the best. They did a big baby shower. What was that, 2 weeks ago? It wasn't that long ago.
April 1st.
They did this huge baby shower back in Indianapolis, and it was amazing. It was so much fun. Jose's family is obviously Hispanic and cooked up the most incredible food, and they have so much family, and everybody's so excited, and we had such a great stinking time, and I can't remember where I was going with this.
Something about hair. Bows.
Oh, and that's right. We did a 3D ultrasound while we were there. And
We got distracted by the food again.
it was, oh my God, the food was so good. Sorry, the food got, Katie, it was lamb, and it was amazing.
Oh my God. Yum.
It was so good. It was so good. But they did a 3D ultrasound. We had so much fun, but she has so much hair on the ultrasound already. And I was like, well, there's where all the heartburn came from. So hopefully there'll be some good hair for Jose to play with.
Yeah, that's right.
I love Hannah as the mom of a pretty girly child myself, and she's like, why can't you do hair better? And like, kid, look at me. Like, my hair is real short too. Like, why my hair is short? Because I am not the one you want for this, baby.
No! And who's got time for that? I'm sorry, I do not have time for that.
I'm trying to find one of the moms at daycare that I can like legit just pay off to deal with my kids' hair, because
That's
I am
amazing.
not here for this. Just
That's
not.
amazing.
Oh, Katie's got more. Go.
Arlene, I forgot the second half of my question because I got all
Okay,
distracted by Jose's family's food.
You would have been, trust me.
You said you were a total milk cow for the first kid, and I think you already partly answered this, but what's the plan for feeding this baby?
So
Let's talk about food, Hannah. Let's talk
about food.
Circle back to food.
We've got a really cool situation with Chris and Jose that they've been very open about breastfeeding and birth and everything, and just figuring out what is going to A, be best for Emma, and B, what's going to be feasible for all of us. And so that was kind of how we came to, let's get Emma here and safely, and then go back to the farm and settle, and we can all kind of help each other. I mean, 4 hands are far better than 2. And all
I
kind
think
of
you have 8 hands between the 4 of you, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Math
I just thought
I
I'd
can't
check.
hard. But just kind of get everybody settled, and that'll give me time to get my milk in. And I was very fortunate that I was an absolute cow last time. So hopefully if they're here for about a week, we can get a bunch of milk frozen up for them to send off with, and then we'll be shipping milk up north for them weekly. So that should be a pretty good situation. And last time I produced, I fed Tempe, obviously, and then I also pumped. I had a girlfriend who did not nurse well, and so I pumped and fed her baby half of his milk as well. And then I also donated about 600 ounces. So I was a very good milk cow. Yeah.
Yeah. Good supply
So,
for sure.
Yeah, fingers crossed that happens again. I know it's not always the same, and pumping will be different, obviously, than having a baby on the breast all the time. So we'll see. But that's the hope.
Mhm.
I like that you're setting up a meal train now,
Right?
for the baby.
Right? And why not?
It's kind of cool.
So I'm sure that every surrogacy experience is different, but can you talk a little bit about the steps, like medically, that you go through? Like, say someone else was interested or curious about how it works. So what did it look like for you? And you've talked a lot about kind of the delays and how long everything takes. So I'm also kind of curious about what happens along the way.
I think the longest process was probably legal, wouldn't you say? The attorneys. Yeah, it was a lot, because I think it was like April before, or May even, before we started on the actual process of physical process. So the attorney portion took a really long time, and I feel like we were all very simple on the contracts. Like we were like, we're pretty easy, like whatever you guys say. I just think it takes a long time to get everything squared away. And we have the challenge too that you're dealing with all these different states, right? So they're from Indianapolis, and we're from South Carolina, but the laws in Georgia are actually more agreeable for surrogacy. And we're thankfully about, 15 minutes from the border of Georgia. So that's why we're in Georgia to have the baby. So that was kind of the longest process. And then after that, it was, blood draws and lots of ultrasounds to kind of start tracking cycles and seeing where everything's sitting. Very similar to an IVF process. And then we did, I would go up to Indianapolis, and they would do scans up there and check everything. And then we did a mock trial, which was super interesting, because we had to time when we needed to do implantation. And so most women, you implant, I believe it was 7 days. And they did a mock trial where they actually scrape some of the uterine lining, and they test the cells to see when you're going to be most fertile to accept an egg or an embryo. And they said, there's a few women that are a little before or a little after. And thankfully they did that, because my day was actually day 9, not 7. So if we had just gone for the first one, we probably wouldn't have had little Emma. We'd probably have a little boy instead. So it was great that we did the mock trial and kind of knew what day they needed to do the transfer on. And then the next cycle, I went back up for the transfer, and then same as IVF, it's tons of shots, and I don't do needles, so that was kind of a struggle, but we got through it. But it was actually really amazing. We had a mare last year lose a foal tragically. She was having a canter with the herd, and she ran into a fence post and broke her neck, and so it was absolutely heart-wrenching. And we were with the foal. Obviously until the vet got there and had her sedated and quiet and everything. And the mare, the mom of the foal, is one of my homebreds. So I had pulled her from her dam. And so her and I are obviously very close. And so the situation was very challenging and heartbreaking for all of us to go through. And when the transfer happened, it was about 2 months after we had lost the baby. And she actually came up into the field when I got home. I was out doing some stuff. And she came up, and it was still 3 days before I could take a positive pregnancy test. And she put her head on my chest and put her nose on my stomach and just stood there. And, I was just loving on her. I didn't really think anything of it. And then Mom kind of, I don't remember if it was Mom or Bryce, was like, do you think she knows something? And I was like, I didn't even think about that. She's a very affectionate animal anyway. But it was just interesting how she came over and really just rested on my stomach. And then that night, one of our cats, who we've had for forever, who was also with me during my last pregnancy and is obsessed with incubating babies, obsessed with it, immediately started incubating my stomach. And so I texted Chris and Jose, and I was like, I think we're pregnant. And they were like, really? There's no way we can know yet. And we knew long before we took the pregnancy test that we were pregnant. It was really cool, but it was so fun to have the animals being the one to tell you, that they were all like, oh yeah, there's a bun in the oven. Let's get this thing going. So, but yeah, the process was, other than that, it was pretty smooth. I went back up for an 8-week ultrasound in Indianapolis. And at that point I was released from Midwest Fertility. And then I started with a midwife here in Aiken, who actually kind of counseled us into not doing a hospital birth, because our first birth was a home birth. And so then we went to Savannah and got in with a birthing center there, which we absolutely loved. And then Emma decided that, it's not really anybody's decision other than hers anyway. So here we are at the hospital.
Chris and Jose, I know you know Hannah well enough by now, but y'all are screwed if she comes out with even like half of her attitude. You're just up a creek. I mean,
Love it.
you're lucky because.
Oh, you're fine.
We were saying that if Emma eats just like Hannah, we will love it. You know, what's not to what how do you say it?
What's not to love about him?
Right.
I don't know about that, but they're pretty great guys.
I mean, my daughter's a sassy little critter too, so I fully.
You would,
I love it.
right? You wouldn't want it any other way, though. I mean, the stuff that comes out of Tempe's mouth most of the time leaves me like peeing my pants. So like, I'm game.
I figure it's got to be easier to try and get him to chill a little bit than it is to deal with a kid who is just, can be told anything and will go along with it. So at least that's what I tell myself to deal with the tremendous amount of attitude. What I know you said there are other embryos remaining. I was about to say on file, but I don't think that's really what I meant. Have you guys talked about doing this again?
We have, and we don't have any details or anything. It's just a thought. I think right now, and Hannah and Bryce are I think agreeable to it. And
we're on board with another one.
So obviously this is a little girl, and we'd like to have a little boy, but we just want to have success. We want Emma to come and we want to get through this one before we start really
venturing down another path.
Planning the second one. So, that's where we're with that.
And I had no desire to do another surrogacy until they brought it up. I don't think I would. I wanted to do this once. If it was for another couple, I would not be interested. But we've had so much fun, and it's been great, and it's been so fun to get to know them. They're going to be the best daddies in the world. This little girl is so lucky. So I think we're game to do it again.
So how has this pregnancy been different physically and emotionally than the last one?
Honestly, not at all. The only frustration I had with this one in the beginning was they had me on restricted activity, which I understand why. But that was challenging. Again, Katie and I have known each other for years, and sitting is not a common part of my life. Nor
I don't know
sleeping.
that I've ever seen you seated, and I don't think you actually do sleep. So
no, it's really not a cup of tea of mine. So that part was a little challenging in the beginning. It wasn't bed rest or anything, but it was the simple things of like I couldn't go out and throw 15 bales of hay, which taking care of your farm. And so Bryce and my parents were very accommodating and helpful to do the heavy lifting on the farm that I couldn't do for a few weeks. But after that, I was back to my normal activity level. I've been riding 3 horses 4 to 5 days a week still, running the farm, throwing, a bunch of hay. And it's honestly, physically, it's been exactly the same up until this little entertaining blip on Saturday morning. But emotionally, it's been absolutely fine. I really, like I said, I really sat with this for a long time before I even talked with Bryce about it. And made sure that I felt like I was emotionally and mentally capable of carrying someone else's child and being comfortable, knowing that this was not my baby, even though your body thinks it is when it comes out, it's not my baby. And so we've all talked about it. It's so funny because people bring up the comment a lot, like, how do you make a baby and then give it up? And I'm like, it was never mine to give up. It's always been Chris and Jose's little girl. So it's just my job to incubate the little cutie and bring her into the world. So I feel like rationally, I've been very good on that level. That being said, one of the reasons we went with this agency is they have a really good counseling program afterwards, because we're all moms and we all know the hormones that come in after you give birth. And I want to be prepared for that. I definitely want to be. And we unfortunately had a lot of heartache the first half of the pregnancy with some dear friends passing, and just it was a hard fall. And so I'm very aware that that's probably going to hit me as well. And so we're going to be prepared for that. But at the same time, rationally, like I said, I'm sitting with it very well rationally. I know hormones are a beast. So I want to make sure I'm prepared for that when it comes around.
Do you think it helped the mental part of the process that it started as an embryo and not with your, I mean, not with your egg, but also not with your immediate biological involvement in the actually making an embryo, if that makes sense?
I think yes and no. I don't know. I'm pretty good at compartmentalizing, so I feel like I feel like from the get-go, I just emotionally and mentally understood it's not my child. And I feel like that part sits well with me. We have no desire to have another child. We feel like we hit the jackpot. I mean, she is beautiful and wonderful, and she's smart, and she's kind, and she's gentle, and she's giving. You know, she's everything we ever could have wanted for a child. And so we always knew we only ever wanted one, and I'm sure the next one would be a demon. And so we sat tight with that. And that was actually the really funny part. We were going through some of this paperwork and stuff. You know, Bryce was very adamant as we were talking with our attorney. He's like, but how do we make sure that this child does not accidentally come to us? Because we don't want another one.
Yeah. Don't make us guardians of any kind. Yeah, no.
It was so funny. I mean, he was like, no, seriously, what if something goes wrong with the birth certificate and they try to give us the baby?
Or you just like return policy, there is not one. No returns without a receipt, no returns with a receipt. It's your problem now, guys.
Right. So it was pretty funny. But no, it's like I said, it's been a really cool process. It's been super cool. And for the most part, it's gone very smoothly, other than this little hiccup. And I think this was kind of one of the ways the universe says sometimes you need to accept how things are going to go, and you need to be willing to adapt and evolve. And so this was definitely not the plan, but we have been willing to adapt and evolve. And at the same time, we're going to spend all this time with Chris and Jose. They've been here since Sunday, and we get to spend every day together, and we're all just hanging out. We've got dominoes on the floor, and Tempe's been ripping up some Uno with everybody, and, you know, we've just been having a good time.
That's great.
It feels like a good introduction to parenthood too. This is kind of,
I think so. Yeah, I really
what it's going to be like. So.
Right.
So I know you've said that Emma's dictating how things are going to go in terms of the birth, but you know, in like detail wise, is everyone going to be in the room when she's born, or what are your plans for kind of those final moments?
That's the plan. We're not quite sure about Chris. He doesn't do we've been very honest that it's loud and it's messy. And He doesn't do messy bodily fluids very well. So Tempe might be holding his hand in the corner, you know, that's fine.
She's seen birth before, right?
She's seen birth plenty of times. They've been very kind. They were more than willing to have her in the room with us. Obviously, if it's in the middle of the night and she's not here, you know, we're not going to scramble to try to get her here, but hopefully she'll get to be here for it too. But for now, we're planning on in the room will be Chris and Jose and Bryce and me, obviously, and Tempe and my mom. So it'll be kind of a room full, and we're kind of just gauging who, you know, it's ebb and flow of. Hopefully, one of us are going to catch her. I think it'd be cool to have someone in the family catch her rather than, you know, the doctors or the nurses. But it should be really fun. But yeah, the only one we're a little concerned about is Chris over there. We might have him sitting in a chair.
Yeah.
We just don't want him to hit the floor.
Yeah, don't let the baby or Chris hit the floor. Keep it. Right. Maybe he shouldn't be catching either. Take him off the list.
Right. Yeah, he's going for.
Yeah. So if this is too personal, then you can skip it or tell me that you're not going to answer this question. But as a Canadian, I know that here you're not allowed to pay someone to be a surrogate. And I don't know if money is part of the arrangement that you guys have, but I'm just curious about the money side of things. I guess even in terms of, you know, like paying for medical expenses and all that kind of stuff. How does the financial side work?
So there is a financial side to it. I'll be the first one to say that wasn't what brought us that direction. It's something we've always wanted to do. It was something we were actually going to do for some very close gay friends of ours growing up, or not growing up, but initially. And they found out that one of them was infertile, and he was the one that wanted to be biological, and they had selected a donor egg and everything. And so the financial part wasn't as big for us as it just is something we've wanted to do. The financial part definitely helps. And like the agency said, Mindy was like, the most beautiful balance you find between a surrogate woman is, that appreciates the money and, uses the money obviously to improve things that they need to improve in their lives and all of that, but also is just compassionate and caring and really just wants to do this. So there's definitely, like, yes, the monetary side is helpful for sure, but and then they do cover all the medical expenses and all of that, but it's not terribly what it's about, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah, and just being from somewhere where you're not allowed to pay someone, it just,
Yeah.
I understand the ethics of that, but as someone who has born children, I also can appreciate, like there are you are doing something with your body that has value, right?
Yeah,
and that can't be done in any other way.
No, and it does definitely take a physical toll, and like I hadn't thought about what Katie said earlier, which is honestly a brilliant statement, that the beauty of, we have 3 completely healthy individuals after a baby is born, where normally you have one, and the mother is a bit, it's a process. Giving birth it's a big process, and it's strenuous on your body, and it's hard, whether it's natural, whether it's C-section, it doesn't matter. It is a hard process, and your body goes through the ringer, and to have able-bodied individuals when you're recovering is huge. And I honestly hadn't even thought about how helpful that will be for all of us as we kind of get going and get settled with little Emma.
Mm-hmm. I was wondering if the dads wanted to chime in again about what the plan is. Are they both self-employed? Like, are we taking some time off? What is your paternity leave look like in the next?
Hold on, they're getting closer, so you can talk.
Sure.
I say, Arlene, I want to interject too that Hannah, a large part of my thought with that was actually that as new parents, they will have experienced parents who are not their parents helping with the baby. Because
absolutely,
that being a first-time parent is a mind fuck. To be sure.
Yeah, it is.
So.
Total mind fuck. It's a challenge, and they're very fortunate too, where they're at. Jose has a beautiful extended family with cousins and sisters and family that are so excited to help, and Chris does too. And the amount of support they have is really incredibly beautiful. It was so touching to be. Their baby shower had like 150 people. I swear to God, there were so many people, and it was a majority of it was family, and it was just so touching to see how much support they have. It's going to be a really beautiful experience for them. But I'm passing it over to them.
And I feel like I'm scaring them. I hope I'm not. I'm an only child and didn't grow up with babies. So being sent home from the hospital where like somebody else is in charge and knows what the fuck they're doing. And then they just let you take this thing home and they just assume that you know what you're going to like. They assume you'll figure it out, which you will. It'll be fine. But it would have been awesome to start out with somebody who'd already done this. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, so I guess my question was for you guys. What are the next weeks and months look like? What are you most excited about, and what are your plans with your new little one?
I don't know. So like Hannah said, we have tons of support. We have tons of family. We have so many friends, and everybody's so supportive. And we have Jose's sister. One of his sisters works for us full time, so she's with us 5 out of the 7 days a week, and another sister works with us one day, so we're always going to have so much support. And I always think back to what Hannah has told us several times, that when they had Tempe, when Tempe was born, they had all this support at their home, and then at a certain point, everybody kind of left, and they were home alone with a baby. They're like, "Oh shit, what do we do now?"
Yeah, so that sounds familiar.
Yeah, and you know what? They made it through, and they just took it. They figured it out and took it day by day. And I think we're gonna do the same thing. So we're just so damn excited, and just over the moon and can't believe this is happening. And I have to pinch myself to. I just don't. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just add, like, as far as the how the next weeks will look for us. Definitely we'll taking some time off from work. We'll still be taking some dogs here and there. The main reason we're doing that is because I want Emma to start feel comfortable with dogs being around her, like as far as like barking or crying, whatever it is. Because even Hannah agrees, so, and I probably every mom will agree with it, is that your home, you have to make it feel comfortable for her. So whatever noise, whether if it's loud or not too loud, it will be eventually become like comfort for her. So that's what the next weeks will look for us. Busy but not too busy. Enough busy to make some money, but not too busy to make her feel comfortable. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Sorry, I was just thinking about what a lucky kiddo this is to be born into so many families and so many people that love her and worked this hard to make this happen. I mean, it's really the best possible thing a kiddo can have is to have more people who love them. And that's,
Yeah.
What a wonderful thing. So I'd really like to hear from
Katie,
all. What?
just one more question, Katie, before we go on. I know that you guys have probably told Hannah these things lots of times, but what do you feel about her and the gift that she's giving you? Are there words to put behind what she's doing for you guys?
For me, I try to wrap my head around this whole, from the very beginning, how we ended up so damn lucky. Hannah and Bryce and Tempe, they're all just angels to me. I just still don't understand how we managed to be so lucky. And we're like, me and Jose and Hannah and Bryce and Tempe were like peanut butter and jelly. I mean, it's a family. Yeah. And I think it, yet to be seen, but I think it's going to be lasting. I think they're going to be in our lives for a very long time. So.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think we talked every day, so we get a little emotional. But sorry.
That's okay.
I just
I'm
feel
tearing
bad that
up
Hannah
too.
volunteered for this podcast, and then we've just roped all of you into it.
I mean, I texted them. I don't know how many times I told them, like, I cannot find words of how to explain to be thankful to her, to Bryce, Tempe. It's just like we're just so happy. There will never be enough words for me to explain how thankful I am for them. And like Chris mentioned, they by now they're family. They're not even considered friends. Or any people that we just met, but they're definitely part of our family now, and I know it will last for forever. We'll eventually like come visit them, or they can go up north and visit us, vice versa. So we're but we know Hannah hates the cold, so that's why she ran away from Iowa. So more than likely we'll probably come visit them, and which we're okay. I like when we last time we were here towards the end of March, was it?
Yeah, I think it was sometime in March. Guys, we were for like a week.
Yeah, and I just loved it because it was like we live in the city and it's loud all the time. We're fortunate that we don't live close enough to where there's too many cars, but there is enough cars to you can still hear it. traffic, all that. And when we're at their farm, it was just like peaceful. You don't hear anything but the horses, the chickens, and but yeah, I enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward for more of those days like that, and of course sharing it with Emma and all of them too.
So we ask all of our guests, and I'd love to hear from all four of you. If you were going to dominate a category at the county fair, what would it be? And the categories can be real or made up to ensure that you win. And maybe we should start with Hannah, since I think she's the only one who saw these questions ahead of time.
I didn't look at them.
Ah! Hey, I never look at them, and I'm a co-host of the show. So.
Oh my god, I have no idea. What would we dominate?
No, what would you dominate?
What would I dominate? I have no idea. I mean, lack of sleep. I could definitely dominate that one. I could slice that one up.
Well, your horses must have the best hair, so I mean, a certain kind of braid are you the best at, or?
Pretty luxurious. It's pretty luxurious. Yeah, I have no idea. Something with animals, obviously. What do you have, Bryce?
I think I would dominate the pie eating contest.
Ah, sweet. Quantity or speed?
Quantity. Yeah, I would want to enjoy it.
Yeah.
What kind of pie are we
Nice.
talking there, Bryce?
I knew you were going to ask that. Pie or lemon meringue. I really want a lemon meringue pie. We were thinking about this and nobody will make me one, so maybe they'll have some in the cafeteria.
If I could think of a
hospital
way to
cafeteria
ship one,
pie is
I'd do
probably
it,
pretty bad.
because I love lemon meringue.
I'm sure they have it here in the hospital, so maybe I'll have to go down there and look. So.
All right, Chris, Jose, what do you got?
I'm going to piggyback on what Bryce said, and it's the eating part of it, because I just love all the food at the fair. Whatever it is, fried,
Funnel cakes.
Yeah,
I'll eat it.
all the fried stuff.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably me too, because I love to eat. I love
We're
food.
we're very
Yeah, we're very food motivated.
Very food
This is why we all
focused.
get along so well.
Yeah, that's right.
Like,
So you
anything
eat?
fun.
Are you eating from the cafeteria, or are we Uber eating into the hospital tonight?
They brought last 2 nights ago they brought us steaks and mashed potatoes and all sorts of yummy stuff. Last night we had Thai that was fantastic.
Oh, delicious.
So yeah, we've been having a good time.
That's great. So we're going to go ahead and move into our cussing and discussing segment. So this is anything goes. It can be from a minor pet peeve to major societal issues, whatever you want to talk about. And listeners, if they want to submit their cussing and discussing, you can go to our SpeakPipe or our email. They're both in the show notes. You can leave us a voice memo or send us an email and we'll read it out. Katie, what are you cussing and discussing this week?
I hadn't prepared anything, but I'm just gonna wing it. I am not the most emotionally adept person. I'm not good at deep feelings. And so when I had my kids, people say things like, a child is your heart walking around outside of your body. And I was like, the fuck's the matter with you people? It is. You guys, I'm I love that Hannah's starting over here. Chris and Jose, I'm so excited for you guys, who I've never met, so I can't even imagine how excited you guys are. To get to experience that, because it's unlike anything else, the love that you will feel for your child. And now that I've done it for a while, I wish I could go back and experience that first experience of it again, because it's, for me at least, being the emotionally stunted little weirdo that I am, I frequently try really hard not to think about how much I love my children, because it sends me into a very uncomfortable place very quickly. And I'm just so excited for all of you
Thank you.
to get that. And if it's overwhelming, just don't think about it, because it'll it'll just break your heart real quick because it's, yeah. Anyway, well, now how are we going to do this with all 4 of them, Arlene?
We'll just ask if anyone wants to cuss or discuss anything,
right.
and they can jump in. They're pretty good at that. Anybody have anything you want to talk about? Cussing, discussing? Hannah, you've got something.
Hannah?
I don't know. I've discussed.
You must
Hannah,
have
can we
something
see
to
this
complain
belly real
about.
quick before we get off here, too?
Oh yeah,
It's
this
honestly,
is
it's
great for an audio medium, Katie. Our listeners
Yeah.
are gonna love this.
Oh,
I did a little.
baby.
No, she's a good girl. She's just chugging along. No,
All right. Anybody got anything?
I just was gonna go off of what Katie said about that first love, and I was gonna say I've already warned him about the first meconium poop. That's what I've been hitting him hard for. So
All the firsts.
I will say when the
good old tar.
girl child was like 10 days old, we took her to a young farmers meeting in a church that for some unholy reason did not have changing tables.
Oh
And so I was like 10 days post C-section and trying to change a baby it was like the first poop after the meconium where it just looks like they've exploded. I assume this is a common thing. And I had to change her like in a sink in this church bathroom. And I have never questioned whether I should have had children before or after like I did that night. Yeah. So
No, thank you.
there's that poop. So much poop.
There's a lot of poop.
It's a lot of poop. Arlene, what do you have to cuss and discuss?
So since we decided to move this up and have it be our Mother's Day episode, I am going to cuss and discuss, or mostly cuss, the fact that Mother's Day and planting line up so perfectly. So that unless it rains and then people are grumpy about the fact that it rains, there's never any chance that Mother's Day is going to be like the relaxing, like go to brunch and get flowers situation that non-farm families apparently get. So I want to say happy Mother's Day to any of the moms out there who are maybe, making meals for people out in tractors or looking after kids by yourself or on a tractor with your kids, or maybe you could put the kids on the tractor with your partner and, you could drive the tractor by yourself and listen to a podcast instead of listening to people ask when planting is done or whatever. Anyway, it's just... We could move Mother's Day to like January or something, and then we might actually get a day off.
Right, those are the best. Unfortunately,
I'll say too that if it's someone who is not a mother listening to this, chances are that you know a mother, and you should go do something nice for that person, even if they're not your
Yeah.
mother or the mother of your children.
Do that.
It's rarely a bad idea to do something nice for someone.
There you go.
So planting conversation here, I just have a funny little note that I found out about the other day that I think you will find entertaining. So we grow roses beautifully down here, which we're not able to grow up north. And so I was chatting with, I've planted a few and they really just grow beautifully down here. But I was chatting with the gal at the flower shop a couple of weeks ago, and I was asking her, like, I need to learn more about how to prune them and keep them beautiful here and all of these things, right? And I said, do you cut them back like in the fall or something? And she looked at me and she goes, we're talking about roses, right? And I said, yeah, like, roses. And she's like, yeah, so Valentine's Day is the perfect day to cut them down to the ground. And I was like, Valentine's Day?
That's
Really?
a good way to remember.
I know. I was like, that's kind of savage. So I found that
I
highlighted.
like that.
It's a date you can remember. That's good.
Seriously.
So, yeah, I want to thank everybody in the room for talking to us today. And I know Katie has already said it, and we're both going to say it again. We're so excited for all of you. And by the time this episode comes out, there's going to be an Emma in the world, and we will hopefully be able to share some pictures or whatever you guys are comfortable with sharing with us and our listeners after she makes her appearance. But good luck in the next few hours and days and weeks. And yeah, we're just so thankful that you came on with us today, and we're so open to sharing with us. So thank you.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. And Hannah, I know I said, but I hope that this is the most uneventful and boring delivery that could possibly happen. Because I feel like that's really the, like...
I'm really hoping so. My last one totally was, but this, this is just a whole hiccup. I don't know. We'll see. But thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you. It was nice to
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you guys so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Barnyard Language. If you enjoy the show, we encourage you to support us by becoming a patron. Go to www.patreon.com/barnyardlanguage to make a small monthly donation to help cover the costs of making this show.
Please rate and review the podcast and follow the show so you never miss an episode.
You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok as Barnyard Language, and on Twitter we are Barnyard Pod. If you want to connect with other farming families, you can join our private Barnyard Language Facebook group.
We are always in search of guests for the podcast. If you or someone you know would like to chat with us, please get in touch. We are a proud member of the Positively Farming Media Podcast Network.